In 2022, deep beneath the Caribbean waves, archaeologists were exploring a centuries-old shipwreck, a routine survey of what they thought were ordinary remains from the golden age of piracy. But then they found something extraordinary, a full pirate skeleton, unusually preserved, lying in a position that suggested a violent but carefully orchestrated death. At first glance, the bones seemed typical: thick forearms, strong jaw, and worn teeth, all signs of a life at sea. Yet, as scientists began examining it closer, they realized something didn't add up. Certain features were impossible. The skeleton carried healed fractures inconsistent with 17th century medical knowledge. Tiny fragments of metal embedded in bone suggested gunshot wounds treated with advanced techniques centuries before they should have existed. Even more puzzling, isotopic analysis showed the man's diet included foods not common to the Caribbean at the time, hints of foreign travel that were centuries ahead of documented pirate voyages. This was not just a skeleton. It was a puzzle that defied history, medicine, and logic. Today, we dive into the mystery of the pirate skeleton that shouldn't exist and uncover what it tells us about survival, science, and the secrets of the high seas. The skeleton was discovered near a small coral reef in the Caribbean, in an area long rumored to be a pirate graveyard. Divers were initially surveying the site for shipwreck remnants, old timber, cannonballs, and fragments of daily life. But as the sonar scans indicated anomalies beneath the sand, they realized they had stumbled upon something far more extraordinary. Excavation began slowly, carefully. Every layer of sediment was removed by hand to avoid damaging the bones. Coral and barnacles were meticulously chipped away, revealing the skeleton in astonishing condition. Alongside the bones were personal effects: a rusted cutlass, a bronze buckle, and fragments of leather boots, giving insight into the man's attire and rank. Even small items like a carved bone comb and a few coins were preserved, hinting at a personal life beyond the violence of piracy. Once the skeleton was raised from the ocean floor, it was immediately transported to a laboratory for further study. There, carbon dating confirmed the remains were approximately 400 years old, placing them squarely in the golden age of Caribbean piracy. But scientists noticed early on that something didn't make sense. The skeleton's unusual preservation suggested conditions that should have destroyed organic matter centuries ago. Its bones also contained anomalies that hinted at medical treatments far beyond what was known in the 1600s. What appeared to be a routine discovery had quickly become one of the most puzzling pirate finds in history. Once in the laboratory, the skeleton underwent its first detailed scientific examination. Researchers were struck by how well preserved the bones were. Even after 400 years underwater, cartilage remnants, small tissue traces, and unusual metal deposits remained. High-resolution CT scans revealed something impossible: several healed fractures and injuries that indicated medical treatment far more advanced than anything recorded in the early 1600s. Tiny metal fragments embedded in the bone suggested gunshot wounds had been partially treated, possibly with early surgical techniques or antiseptics that should not have existed at the time. The skeleton also showed signs of repeated trauma: a fractured rib, a healed arm bone, and marks consistent with blunt force blows. Yet each wound had healed in a way that indicated skilled intervention. Someone had cared for this pirate's injuries, defying the brutal medical reality of the golden age of piracy. Even the teeth were unusual. Dental wear suggested he ate a varied diet, including grains, vegetables, and preserved foods rarely available to Caribbean pirates of the era. Microscopic analysis confirmed traces of foreign minerals, hints of travel across regions not yet documented in historical pirate records. Every discovery deepened the mystery. A pirate who had lived violently, survived impossible injuries, and consumed foods that should have been inaccessible. The skeleton seemed to defy both history and science. This find would challenge what we know about life, survival, and medicine among pirates centuries ago. As scientists analyzed the skeleton in greater detail, it began to reveal the daily life of a man who lived and died under the black flag. The teeth showed evidence of worn enamel and cavities, a sign of constant use and limited dental hygiene. Analysis of residues on the teeth revealed traces of salted meat, preserved fish, and grains, staples of a pirate diet. Surprisingly, There were also minerals and plant residues from foods not native to the Caribbean, suggesting trade or travel far beyond documented pirate routes. The bones themselves carried stories of constant physical stress. A fractured arm had healed unusually well, indicating some form of care. Ribs showed repeated trauma, possibly from shipboard accidents, heavy lifting, or fights. Even the spine bore the marks of years spent in cramped quarters aboard a rolling ship. One of the most striking findings was the presence of metallic fragments embedded in the skull and ribs. These fragments, likely remnants of lead shot or surgical tools, showed that this pirate had survived wounds that would normally have been fatal. Someone had intervened, perhaps a ship's surgeon or a fellow pirate, using techniques not believed to exist in the early 1600s. The skeleton painted a vivid picture, a man hardened by life at sea, exposed to disease, battle, and environmental hazards, yet somehow surviving injuries that should have killed him. This skeleton was more than a curiosity. It was a record of human endurance and medical ingenuity centuries ahead of its time. After weeks of careful examination, scientists finally turned their attention to the anomalies that made this skeleton so extraordinary. The CT scans and lab analyses revealed tiny metallic fragments embedded in the skull, ribs, and limbs, consistent with gunshot wounds and surgical tools, yet the pattern of healing was unlike anything from the 17th century. Somehow, this pirate had survived injuries that should have been instantly fatal. Even more mysterious, isotopic and chemical analysis of the bones revealed elements that didn't match the Caribbean environment, traces of rare minerals, metals, and even plant compounds that should have been inaccessible to pirates at the time. It suggested this man had traveled far beyond recorded routes or had access to resources that historical records never mention. The skeleton also showed advanced bone remodeling, indicating medical interventions that predated modern antiseptic techniques by centuries. Historians and medical experts were stunned. Someone had treated these wounds with skill and precision not believed possible for that era. Every layer of the skeleton told a story of survival, ingenuity, and mystery. This pirate's life was a puzzle, a living record defying both history and science. What scientists had in front of them was more than a skeleton. It was evidence of advanced knowledge and practices centuries ahead of its time, and the questions it raised would challenge everything we thought we knew about the golden age of piracy. With the skeleton fully analyzed, scientists sought to answer the most compelling question: who was this pirate? Using trace DNA extracted from the bones, forensic specialists determined that the man was of European descent, likely from the British Isles. However, isotopic analysis of his teeth and bones suggested something extraordinary. He had consumed foods and water from regions as far apart as Western Europe, North Africa, and the Americas. For a pirate of the 1600s, this was almost impossible. Historical records were consulted. No known pirate crews traveled such a wide route during that period. Yet, the artifacts found with the skeleton, coins, personal items, and remnants of a cutlass, matched items used by privateers operating under British or Dutch flags. The skeleton's unusual preservation and evidence of advanced medical treatment raised further questions. Could this pirate have been part of an elite crew with access to exceptional knowledge, supplies, or secret networks? While the exact identity remains unknown, the combined DNA, isotopic, and artifact evidence tells a remarkable story. A pirate who lived far beyond what history had documented, endured impossible injuries, and traveled further than anyone had imagined. This skeleton challenges historical timelines, rewriting our understanding of pirate life, travel, and survival in the golden age of piracy. Today, the pirate skeleton rests in a climate-controlled exhibit, silently narrating a story 400 years in the making. Scientists, historians, and archaeologists now view it as one of the most significant finds of the golden age of piracy. It provides unprecedented insight into the physical hardships, medical interventions, and global travels of a pirate centuries before such voyages were documented. The skeleton also challenges assumptions. Pirates were often imagined as reckless, poorly fed, and barely surviving. Yet here was evidence of advanced care, unexpected nutrition, and survival against injuries that should have been fatal. This pirate lived beyond what was previously thought possible. Beyond science, The skeleton teaches us about human resilience. For centuries later, it connects us to a man who endured brutality at sea, diseases, starvation, and battle, yet survived long enough to leave behind evidence that continues to fascinate. The skeleton that shouldn't exist has rewritten history, expanded our understanding of pirate life, and reminded us that sometimes the past still has secrets waiting beneath the waves. And as we look into the hollow eyes of this long-dead pirate, we are reminded, history isn't just written in books, it's etched in bone.